Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
So welcome to this week's show, the Sales and Leadership Ninja. I'm your head ninja, Dean Akers, and each week bringing you a rant to stimulate your thinking in the realm of sales and/or leadership. This week our show is No Rules, Just Right. And it's really kind of a culmination of events that have happened in the last couple of weeks on sales, customer service. And I started thinking about all my leaders out there, and this applies to you people that are in sales too, teaching your teams. And so recently on my CEO Hour show, which by the way you can listen to on all the major podcast networks, it's a weekly radio show I do in the Tampa Bay market, but it is then put up on the podcast networks, the CEO Hour, and it goes up usually by Mondays of the following week, and it's local CEOs and entrepreneurs that share their journeys and what's made them successful. Well, recently I had Chris Sullivan on the show, and it's kind of the show today isn't because he was on, but because of some events I had this week, and I was reflecting back on our show that he had and I together. And Chris Sullivan was one of the founders of the Outback Steakhouse brand, international brand of restaurants, and he was sharing something that I had actually never known. When the brand was started, it was an Aussie brand, and it had a theme of no rules, just right. And I thought that was an Australian theme, and I thought it was cool, and it's just no rules, just right. And it was kind of the whole brand image of the Outback Group. And on my CEO Hour show, Chris explained to me that was the foundation of their success. No rules, just right. And what that meant was he empowered his team members, all the people on the team, to do what was right. There was no rule as long as it was right. So make sure you're taking care of the customer, you're taking care of each other, you're doing what's right. So this week I want to talk about that and how it can help you in your business and help your teams. So I work with lots of different folks, and when I'm working with them, I do one-on-ones with their team members, a lot of times just discreetly, just visiting with them, buy them coffee. And I always find there's tons and tons of rules. And then I reflect back on Chris Sullivan, no rules, just right. So this week I'm going to share two stories that really bring home, in my mind, what's wrong and what's right. And they're very simple stories. So years ago, my oldest son, he was really wanted to get a dive watch, one of these really cool watches that you go down, like you can theoretically go 200 feet deep, or they're guaranteed to go 200 feet deep without leaking, and all this other cool stuff. And so so his mom bought one at Burdines, or a local department store, which is not in business anymore. And I sometimes think this is a kind of why they're not in business, because this is kind of how that company was. So Christmas morning, wakes up, he gets the watch, and he's really happy. He wears the watch a couple weeks, and this is, again, a waterproof dive watch. Like, it's got some warranty for 200 million atmospheres, all this craziness. And so after the second week, and he had worn it in the shower, which clearly wasn't 200 feet deep in the ocean, and water developed in the crystal. And so he was upset, and so Debbie took it back to the department store because it was only a couple weeks old. The warranty wasn't good, and she took it back in. So she went back in, and she said, I'd really like to get another watch or my money back. And so the attendant took the watch from her, looked at it, and kind of peered at it and held it up and double checked it and did all this stuff. Like, almost, it was somewhat embarrassing, because she was almost trying to second guess whether it was really broken or if it really had leaked, and there was clear water on the crystal. And she did that, and she looked at Debbie and kind of goes, "Okay, one moment, please." Now, the experience right at that very moment's not epic. But then this woman picked up a phone receiver behind the counter, and she hit a button, and the intercom for the whole department store came on, and here's what she said: "Code 5 in jewelry, code 5, please code 5 in jewelry. Now, I don't know what code 5 was, and I'm sure it was code 5, but momentarily, another person came up. They call it the assistant manager of the store. She came up, and the woman explained that Debbie had brought this watch in she had bought for her son, and it had water in the crystal, and she wanted her money back or another one. And so the lady said, well, let me look at it. So now this second attendant, this quote manager, takes it, stares at it, looks at her, looks at Debbie, stares back at the watch, kind of looks it over, and then looks at her attendant and says, go ahead and give her money back. So what happened was exactly what Debbie went in for, she got. Now, my listeners out there could be saying, well, she got what she wanted. The experience was horrific. The one woman looked it over and over like Debbie was lying to her, and then she called on a store intercom, and somebody came wobbling over with glasses on her nose. She looked down at it and stared at Debbie and looked around at it, and then finally said, give her what she wants. It was almost like she was indignant to be even asking. Well, here's the message there. Debbie went in. She got what she went to get. I will tell this story. She never went back to that store ever again to buy anything. And she was a loyal store customer with a store credit card and never went back. She felt humiliated and like they were questioning whether she was lying or whatever. And in reality, here's the message. The store gave her what she wanted when she went in. So the store, with all its rules and its double checking and making sure, lost a lifetime client. Now, I don't know if this was the total reason, but a number of years later, that company closed its doors, and it was a big department store chain. Now, my bet is they had all these rules, and they were really pissing customers off, and customers just kind of don't like to be treated that way. So now I'm going to give you the other side of the equation. This week, I'm headed to a meeting. I'm driving down a major road in Tampa. I want to get my customary iced tea, and I pulled into one of the stores. Happened to be a Circle K where I get my iced teas, and I walk in, and I'm not late for my meeting, but I want to get my big 44-ounce iced tea. I drink the Polar Pup every week, Polar Pop cups almost every day. So I pull into the Circle K. I go in, I fill my ice up, and I go over to the iced tea thing, and it's empty. It's empty. So I'm like bummed out. I'm running, not behind, but pretty tight, and I love my iced tea. And so I'm standing there, and I go to put my cup in the trash. I throw it in the trash, and the lady walks by, one of the attendants, one of the Circle K attendants. She looked at me, she goes, "Sir, what's wrong?" And I said, well, I stopped here. I wasn't mad or anything. I said, I stopped here for my iced tea, and there was no iced tea. And she goes, "Oh, you're right." So as I'm kind of getting myself together, about less than 10 seconds later, she shows up and says, "Get your ice in the cup." And she had a bottle of the expensive iced tea out of the refrigerated section of unsweetened iced tea. And she said, "Listen, sir, I want you to take this iced tea, pour it in your cup with your ice, and I'll charge you the 79 cents for the iced tea that we didn't have." I went up and I went, wow. Wow, that's the kind of customer service I'm talking about. This young lady had just the fortitude, was empowered, whatever it was. She might have been doing something against the rules, but she did what was right, and I didn't even care. I wasn't even upset. She walked back to the refrigerated section, got a tea, one of those bottled teas, brought it to me, handed it to me, and said, "Sir, here it is, just pour it in your cup, and I'll charge you the fountain price of 79 cents, and thank you for stopping by." I'm going, that's what's right. So I had two stories today. One of a company that's broken out of business, micromanaging their team over something that was clearly wrong with a product that was bought, put the customer through a grueling experience. And then the other one, the attendant, whether she was empowered or what, she had that kind of attitude that the minute she saw something wasn't working, she just did what was right. So back to what Chris Sullivan shared with me on my show and what his brand was, and what you should be doing with your brand is eliminate the rules and do what was right. So if you can't quantifiably look in the mirror, if you're a leader listening today to my rants, which I got a lot of you out there, I want you to go back and make sure you're not micromanaging your team. You're empowering them to do what's right. And I assure you need to do that today for both your customers' benefit and your success benefit. So, this week's message: no rules, just right. So if you want an outline of the sales basics, again, just email me at help@adjunctco.com. Also, all of you that have emailed me for a copy of the book, Self-Talk, Think Like a Child, be happy to send that to you. Just email me at help@adjunctco.com. And by the way, it won't hurt my feelings if you go on Barnes & Noble or Amazon and buy it. It's for sale there, and they do sell it, and I do get a little bit of pennies that by the way, every penny I get for that, I give away to charities, because it's just what that book's all about. And so again, what's your mission today? What's your mission this week? Actually, what's your mission in life? No rules, just right.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanakers.com. Also, visit us at www.deanakers.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.